Part 2, correct. So hit them refreshes. Welcome. If you're watching us anywhere, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, or Facebook, then thanks for being here. We are halfway through a show, so if you've just joined us, Tom is about to do a rundown on Kroot carnivores from the Tau Codex. Tom, what inspired this decision? Very quickly, quick refresh.
Ennis told me to. So Ennis has been doing a poll on various different formats. Oh, Periscope has just popped up and it's making noises at me. I'm not a fan of that. Periscope, go away. Periscope, hello. All right, I'll just close Twitter. That should fix it. Whatever, fine. So for each of the top 4, Ennis got someone to write a sarcastic defense of that unit. And I was given Kroot. So I wrote something on Kroot, wasn't very good, and I've expanded it, and now done a full Kroot rundown. So I'm going to be reusing content I've used before.
Mostly motivated by Reddit beef.
I was mostly motivated by money, but Reddit beef comes slightly after that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, where's the sliding scale? Like, how much beef versus money does it require? Like,
I would require 5 beefs per money.
Good.
To do a thing. This isn't beef nor money because I get neither of those from this, but I do get to recycle my free content that I've already made and just put it on here and claim it's original, which kind of is actually. I've expanded it.
I mean,
I've done
you've
a
written
full
it.
Fruit list. So yeah, there we go.
Go on, then, hit me up with the Kroot knowledge though.
No, well, I'm not going to hit you with the Kroot list. I'm going to hit you with the narrative first because after all, it is a rundown, and I'm not going to get shouted at again because I didn't do any research on the narrative like last time I did one of these fucking things. So apparently, Kroot, of all the different species integrated into the Tau Empire, the Kroot are by far the most common auxiliaries, serving alongside the Fire Caste, which is like the military arm of the Tau Empire, with many billions of their kind armed for war and assigned to the hunter cadres of nearly every sept. Although their primitive aggression is viewed with distaste by the Tau, such inherent savagery makes them particularly effective shock troops. Remember that, guys, particularly effective shock troops.
This honestly feels like how I feel when I'm at my girlfriend's house for dinner. They're like, I feel
particularly effective shock troops.
No, I just feel like a dirty Kroot amongst a group of enlightened Tau. Yeah, I'm like, I'm not good enough for this.
Okay. Brilliant. So, Kroot carnivores, they are given free reign of the battlefield, and Kroot carnivores silently and stealthily creep into flanking positions, burying themselves deep in cover. There, unseen, they carefully level their long rifles, slowly taking aim and waiting for the perfect moment to launch their ambush. When the time is right and a vulnerable target presents itself, they unleash a devastating volley of fire.
Oh my god.
Yeah. They are ambushers, okay?
Nice.
So that's what they are. They are auxiliaries to the Tau Empire, the one of the Xenos races they've encountered that have been incorporated into the greater good, and therefore they have a bunch of units that you can use alongside your Tau army at home.
The greater good.
That's pretty much the narrative of the Kroot. They're not too exciting. Now, the other thing that we have are the models. That's the second thing that we have a look at. The models are aging quite a bit now, but I'll put a link in the chat for everyone to have a look. What do you guys think of the models? I'll give my opinion first. It looks like they're recycled Tzeentch heads. You get quite a lot of models in the box. So for £22.50, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 16 models, is that?
Yep.
That's a lot of models.
That's a lot of models.
16 carnivores for £22.50. That's good value, Games Workshop.
I'm going to say I like it. I like the rumours that Sisters of Silence are going to be somehow incorporated into the Custodes. I like there being different profiles in an army. Hashtag Gretchen, hashtag Grots, hashtag Orcs. Obviously, I like there being mix it up a little bit. Some Bullgrins mixing with some humans. It's all good. So yes.
So the Kroot, they don't look very dynamic. I think that's probably the main thing, especially considering they're ambush troops, right?
I don't think they're bad models.
Yeah, I don't think they're bad. They've aged pretty well compared to a lot of the other models around that time, aspect-wise. But yeah, there you go. That's what you get in there.
I kind of wish they had. I wish the Tau would have had given them slightly more stuff though, because it looks like they just haven't given them anything. They've just gone, right, you lot, come and be our front line. We'll shoot over. Yeah. I didn't even give them any.
Well, I don't think that's
sweet
what
weapons or armor.
They're meant to be ambush troops. They're not meant to be screens. They're not meant to be running at anybody. They're meant to be sneaky, which unfortunately is not really reflected.
And the Tau have all this other stealth technology that they.
Yeah, but they're not going to give it to dirty Xenos. Come on. Like, definitely equal, though, by the way. Right. So, yeah, that's pretty much the models.
Okay, I'm going to rate the model 6 out of 10.
Okay, Nikos, what are you going to rate them as?
6.137.
Wow.
I feel like you guys are being generous because they're old, so I'm going to give them a 5.
Okay.
Because they're not exciting, but they're not boring either. They're okay. They're fine.
I hear what you're
Cool.
saying. I hear what you're saying, bro.
So, the Kroot rules. So we're going to demonstrate how they are masters of ambush and they unleash devastating volleys of fire. Okay?
Yeah.
You ready to see this? So, Kroot have a rule called Stealthy Hunters, which effectively is a 7-inch scout move. You can't advance as part of this move. And if you're going first, you can obviously do that, then move again and advance if you're not charging. You only have 1 attack at strength 4 hitting on 3s anyway, so charging isn't necessarily great unless you're looking to tag stuff. So you can max screen up to 20 inches away. And that's really good against things like Knight, which can't really soft charge you or lock you, because soft charging is kind of like the antithesis of the tail gun line. It's really, really annoying for them because you need to find a way to get them out of there. So the main issue with throwing them forward to screen is wrapping. So you can get charged, but if you get charged, you'll probably evaporate because your toughness 3 6-up save models with a leadership of 6, which I made the point of in the post MA for Innis, and that if you get charged, you're probably going to run away. You can also at least shoot the target that charged you when you've evaporated and died. So someone charges your crew, you kill them all. It doesn't matter. You can shoot them afterwards, right? But if you get soft charge, you're going to have a bit of an issue. So what your opponent can do is try point at one end and then charge past. So what I've done is I've done 2 rubbish paint drawings. So if you look at the bottom right here.
I don't believe that they're rubbish.
Okay.
Okay. So the bottom right, look at the picture that we've got down here, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So you can see there's a big blue circle. That represents the Tau army, okay? You see these brown circles in front of it. They represent the Kroot. And the 5 models in front, the green ones, represent the enemy army. So what you can do is when you charge, you can charge past. You don't have to necessarily go closest to closest anymore. You can just move in any direction and get within 1 inch. So you can take 1 guy from this green unit, charge it into the Kroot. Everything else charges past, and the remaining 2 just charge 1 Kroot. Charge and then go near the Kroot ready to pile in. So you only have 1 of your models attacking the Kroot. You attack with the worst weapon you have, and then you lock onto one of the Kroot models with 2 other models. And that way you can hold the Kroot hostage. They don't die or run away unless they roll a 6 of morale, which is entirely possible after killing like 1 guy. And then you can run past them, which means that when you kill them again in your opponent's turn, you can then run into the Tau army. And that's a main issue that you can have with the Kroot, because if you utilize them in a way to screen, you can effectively just cut off your nose to spite your face, because what you end up doing is you give your opponent a way to stand out in the open in front of your gun line but not get shot, which is really, really bad. We'd rather just not have the screen at that point at all. You'd just rather the whole thing die, which is why Leadership 6 is quite helpful, but equally why it can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
Okay, yeah.
Cool. I'll just keep reading them. I've written a bunch of notes, so it's fine. It's all good.
So what you're saying is, so Kroot are effectively like Tau's screen.
There is screen.
But you're saying there's no point doing that because
I'm saying often it can be
what Tau are the best at is shooting, and you're giving your opponent a chance to avoid it.
Potentially, if your opponent knows how to deal with it, yes. Also only against certain armies. So, for example, if you're playing against another Tau player, having Kroot there won't matter too much because you're not really going to have much to lock them with. Maybe you do it with crisis suits. Even then, you're probably going to kill the Kroot. If you're playing against Knights, it's really, really good for that as well, because often with Knights, you can't actually try point anyway. So you just stand like outside of 3 inches of the Knight, so they can't heroically intervene. Then the Knight walks up 3 inches, kills all the Kroot, but it's only got 3 inches of movement the entire turn, which is like really bad for the Knight, because they can fall back over infantry. They can't walk over the infantry though. So what you can do is you can use this to deny board space.
I think it also be relevant against things because it's a pre-game. It's
a pre-game 7-inch move.
It's a pre-game 7-inch move. It could block out stuff like drop pods.
Yes, it can. Yeah, totally.
Like the tactical warsuit that might want to.
That assumes you're sitting deep enough though, anyway, though, right? So what is the range of a grav cannon, Nikos?
24.
Right. So if you're playing in Dawn of War, for example, let's say you've got a Dawn of War deployment type, right? You've got 12 inches there from a back edge to your front edge, right? And then you've got width of your base. So let's say you've got about 8 inches from the front of your base to the front of the deployment zone, if you're a big model. You then move this Kroot up 7 inches, so that means you've got 15 inches there, and then you've got a 9-inch effective safe zone outside of those Kroots, so that's the 24 inches. So the issue you're going to have is basically I've got 4 inches at the back of my deployment zone to work with if the Kroot are right in front of me. So it's still, it's good, but it's not like amazing. So specifically when you think about frontline warfare, I think it is, but it's the Pointy Dawn of War. It might be Pointy Hammer and Anvil, I can't quite remember. The Pointy Dawn of War provides you even less space, because you have to sit your stuff a little bit further back as well. If you could advance as part of this move, fantastic. But as you can't, bit of an issue here. It's not like Death Company. So
it's a bit weird that it's 9, because there's a lot of other, like the Alpha Legion one and the Raven Guard.
7
like,
inches, yeah.
Are they? I think they're 9, aren't they?
No, the Kroot are only 7 inches. And the reason the Kroot are 7 inches is because they've got a 7-inch move.
Oh.
Which is why it's weird you can't advance.
Yeah. But like the Alpha Legion and that attack ball is always 9, and the mirror is movement 6, so it seems a bit weird that they'd.
Yeah, I would also like to see them get like an outflank similar kind of move, especially if they're doing ambushes. I think that'd be much more interesting. But I had that. So, so if your opponent isn't charging or is charging something next to you, and trying to blow a hole in your screen, the Psychic Awakening, the greater good one that Tau just got, did give the Kroot something to work with. They got something called Ambushing Predators, which is a stratagem for 1 CP that allows a unit of Kroot to heroically intervene, and when they do it, they can do it up to 6 inches. So if a Kroot are somehow still alive at the end of a charge phase, there are things you can do to kind of mess with your opponent, tag things in their turn and what have you, ready for next turn, but again, you need to wait and what have you. And then it's like... people are saying this is really good, but I need to see it on the tabletop to see it work, because I feel like this is so situational that it's just not even going to happen enough to make it justifiable, right? The 6 inches is nice for heroically intervene. Maybe you catch someone out with it, but I don't think so, especially when you've got like lots of different platforms like Goonhammer and us talking about it, then more people know about it and don't even worry about it. So it's one of those where, oh yeah, it's a nice buff, pity never going to use it. One of those things. What do you think? Do you think the 6-inch heroically intervening could be particularly useful, or do you think it's some kind of like back pocket Swiss Army stratagem that you're not going to use too often?
Don't think it's very useful. Not for Kroot carnivores, who are pretty rubbish at hitting stuff anyway. Unless you're using it, unless someone is lining up a pile-in and consolidate to tag.
Yes, this is the thing.
Your army and something that's going to shoot. Then if you can use that to stop that happening, I think that's good.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one scenario where you do use it, because it allows you to shut down some of your opponent's extra movement, which is fine considering the cost of the unit. So onto their weapons, a melee weapon.
Oh, sorry. Do you mind if I chip in?
Oh, no, of course.
I think also, like, overall, again, one of the things that Tom's touching on, which maybe like he's glossing over it, is just how the Tau army traditionally plays, right? Like, it isn't mobile. So actually having those units out there doing something is, I mean, it's mobile. It can be mobile, but it wants to create some board space if it can between it. But then I like the beginning of the argument, which was, does it even really need to create screens?
And often giving those screens off, as well as denying space, it can also create safe space for people to charge into them and just like lock them, so you can't actually shoot them at all anyway. So it's a weird it's like a double-edged sword, really.
Yeah, there also isn't a Kroot hero, I don't think.
There's a Kroot character,
yes,
but it's not a named one. It's the Kroot Shaper, and we'll be talking about that a little bit later.
Okay.
Because I have added those to this list that I've written as well. It's not a particularly serious list, but I've written one anyway. I thought it was cool. So their weapon is effectively like a gun with a bayonet, but the other way around. So their melee weapon doubles their shooting weapon. Melee weapon gives them +1 strength in melee, so it makes them strength 4. Amazing. They don't get any AP. They get 1 attack. Fantastic. It's technically called a Kroot rifle, but I like to call it the Assault Kroot 47, especially if that's the number of Kroot that you have in your list. And it's effectively a bolt gun, but it hits on force in shooting. So it's actually not too bad, because you're effectively spending 4 points for a bolt gun, which isn't actually the end of the world. It's not too bad. You don't get a bolt drill, obviously, either with that. And obviously you're hitting slightly worse than a Space Marine would be, but you do have kind of a similar thing. So you have some stratagems in the main book that you can use with the Kroot. They're not very good. So you have Hunting Hounds, which is the only strategy that they have in there. And it's 1 CP, which allows all units within 12 inches of a Kroot Hound that has successfully made a charge to re-roll their charges. Kroot Hounds are a fast attack choice. You can't include them in Kroot Carnival packs at the minute. and they come in units of 4 to 12, so they're like really garbage versions of Flesh Hounds of Cord.
Of anything.
It is true, but they are only 16 points a unit, so it's not actually too bad.
For how many wounds?
4.
What size base? 30,
Well, they only have 1 model each because it's 4 wounds in the unit.
Oh.
Yeah, so they're really cheap, not very good though. And the Kroot Hounds, units of 4 to 12, they're Kroot with a 12-inch wound, 12-inch move, AP -1 in melee, but they don't get scoring, they don't get +1 strength in melee. They also inherently have reroll charges themselves, so you don't need to use a stratagem to get that kind of thing at all. You also have the Kroot Shaper, which is the character I was talking about earlier, and that gives you 2 bonuses. The first is to allow all Kroot within 6 inches to use the Shaper's leadership rather than its own, which is 7.
Yay!
So you get leadership 7.
What a useless rule.
Yeah, +1 leadership, yay. The other part that you take it for is reroll wound rolls of 1 for Kroot within 6 inches, which is quite good. I quite like that. That's quite good. The other unit that you can get for Kroot is a Krootox Rider. It's a thing. It doesn't do anything to Kroot. There you are. And you also don't have a Sept keyword, so you can't benefit from Septs and their tenants, and you don't benefit from you traditionally see on Tau, like for the Greatest Good, which is the supporting fire mechanic, where you can overwatch things within 6 inches. The Master of War rule, which allows you to access benefits from the Modkar and Kion declarations that you get from your commanders. But you can benefit from marker lights. That's the one thing you can benefit from here. I've also had a look at the last few Tau lists to do well at events, or come top 4 on VoidGazeStats.com, and there have been 5 since January. So we've had 3rd place at Cape Legacy, 3rd place at Week City, and 3rd place at Talvisota, whatever. And then 1st and 2nd at the event in Scotland, which is a Scottish takeover, which the Twisted Dice guys went to. And none of these lists contain any Kroot. So what I've done is I've written a list specifically designed around Kroot. And so my win condition for this list is not to win the game, it's to be as annoying as possible.
To win heart and mind.
So see how many kill points you can find in this list. So we've got a battalion detachment. Sept doesn't matter. I haven't done Warlord trait and I haven't done Relic because there was far too much irritation in this list for me writing it. Never mind adding in little bits.
Okay.
So 1st Battalion, Commander in Cold Star Battlesuit. That's the thing that shunts and goes 40 inches and goes pew 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 and maybe takes out a vehicle or something.
Right.
It has 3 fusion blasters and a target lock, which allows it to fire as normal even if it's advancing and firing an assault weapon. You also have an Ethereal with an Honor Blade, and now that does affect the Kroot because they are Tau Empire infantry, so you can give them 6+ DPR. You can give them reroll 1s to hit in the shooting phase if they stay still, and other such bonuses like this. In this battalion, we also have 6 troop choices, and they are 6 units of 20 Kroot. So that's 120 Kroot in that battalion, okay? We then included 3 Kroot Shapers in here, and the idea behind the Kroot Shapers is that they allow these Kroot to all reroll 1s to wound, and that includes in the shooting phase as well. So you're getting all these bolters that are rerolling 1s to hit wound. I then included 7 Kroot Hounds. I was going to include 4, but I had some extra points spare. And of course you need some Kroot Hounds because it lets you use the useless stratagem you're never going to use, and you always want a doggo just walking around with you, okay?
Always.
I then included a 2nd battalion detachment. In this battalion detachment, we have another Cold Star Battlesuit with the fusion guns with the target lock, and he's going to go pew pew pew. We then have another Ethereal. Now, this one won't allow you to do a 2nd Ethereal declaration, but it is there because A, it's really cheap, B, it's really cheap.
Redundancy, right?
Yeah, no, and C, redundancy. So that's what else you're going to take. Now, for the troops in this battalion, I've decided to go for 6 units of Kroot Carnivores, 20 man strong each. So that's another 120 Kroot. So we've got 240 Kroot Carnivores in here. There you go. That's lovely. And then after I'd spent all these points on all these Kroot Carnivores, I didn't know where to put my points. So I was thinking,
How are you going to be able to deploy this?
Problem for someone else. It's not my problem.
Tip it out of a bucket.
I then decided, what else could I do? That's a lot of bodies that you've got to remove. And they all have a 6+ DPR as well. So what annoying units do the Tau have that are really difficult to remove, regardless of whether or not you have shield drones? Because I'm not taking any shield drones because that sounds like effort. I know, piranhas. So in here, we've got 9 piranhas with burst cannon. That's 3 units of 3. And then they all have 2 gun drones. So what they're going to do is they're going to just dump all their gun drones on the table in individual units, run around the place. So now you've got 12, 20 strong Kroot units. you've got 9 piranhas, you've got a bunch of gun drone units running around, and you've got somewhere in this mix 7 doggos just running across the battlefield, okay? And then behind all those, you've got another detachment, and it's called a Vanguard detachment. And in this one, it's a Sacia detachment. It's got a Kevlar Fireblade with a marker light in it, and 3 Firesight marksmen also with marker light. So you can start stacking those marker light buffs on things to shoot them with 240 bolters with reroll once. That's the list. There you go. Thank you. I'll put it in the Discord right now.
That would be so annoying. I'll include it in the show notes. That would be so annoying to deal with.
Going in the Discord.
I think you've basically won this competition, Tom, because you've made Kroot shit and annoying here.
Yeah.
And they also sound cool.
They're not actually that shit. They just don't have a use within the army. Completely on their own merits, they're fine. But
so what you did was you just created its own army.
Yeah, there you go. I'm putting it in the Discord right now. It's going to be the Kroot tier.
I feel like at some point Kroot will get some sort of release, like a bit more of expanded rule set. Like the next Tau Codex, I reckon they might get a small model release.
I like the idea. I like
kind of Krutox riders and stuff.
I was going to say I like the idea that they might potentially get, they might get an entire expanded model range, and then there's a civil war in the Tau Empire where the Kroot are actually fighting against their Tau overpressers, the overseers. I think that would be really fun. I like that concept.
So the Discord isn't actually letting me paste this list because it's over 2,000 characters. It might be over 2,000 models as well. I'm not entirely sure.
It's okay.
So
we'll do is we'll create a link for it, and then you guys can.
I'm going to fix it. Okay, I'm spreading it, and then everyone can.
You just need to put 20 Kroot times 6.
I'm a moderator. I do what I want. There we go.
K-Dread says, I want it. Has anyone got 240 spare Kroot? Surely, though...
Hey, you need the hounds as well.
Surely, if the Kroot would get voted the worst unit in 40k, then but they could, then they potentially... There might be a whole bunch of them on eBay. Yeah, demand down.
Price low.
Get all those Russian bots to rig the vote so you can scour eBay for this crap unit.
Just dozens and dozens of Kroot. I really like the idea of it. I think it's quite fun. But also, I wouldn't want...
but not for your opponents.
I don't want to roll it. I want to use the dice app. That's all I want to do.
Well, I don't think you'd want to roll 240 Kroot firing bolters re-rolling once to hit.
No, I don't. Not ever. No. But I also love the sound of it. It's quite fun. It's like people who take shooter boys. Crazy fucks.
Shooter boys are great. I don't know what you're talking about. They're better than looters.
Well, that was really fun, Tom. Thanks very much.
No, thank you very much for listening.
Cheers, Tom.
It's all good. What are you working on at the minute, Rob, by the way?
Oh, I was painting some salamanders, but it was mainly to distract
myself.
Not
salamanders, the 40k faction. Salamanders in actual lizards, yes.
Yeah, it was just mainly because I've set up, as you guys have seen, some of the background has changed because I've relocated and I'm trying to sort the office out, which means I've reset up the new computer, which is really exciting, and I've got the Twitch chat in a really nice place, but it's right above the internet monitor. And I watched it blinking for about an hour, and I was getting slowly and more annoyed, upset, and stressed by it. So I was like, I'm just going to paint and just fucking not look at it because it blinks red, which is basically the red of failure. It really strikes into my heart. Yeah, it strikes into my heart and soul. So I painted to avoid looking at it. So I apologise if I seemed a bit distracted. It wasn't that. But as of this stream, 0% drop. I fixed it.
You gave it a kick, you poured some oil on it, you turned it on again, it's fine.
Yeah, but actually what I did was I changed it to the H.264 codec as opposed, and changed the keyframe interval. So obviously those are the
I have no idea what any of that means, but thank you.
Of course.
Okay.
Seems so simple.
Clear as day. Clear as day.
Don't know why I didn't do that before.
Well, thank you both for doing rundowns. I liked both of them. I think what was really interesting is how different they are to each other. In the Lord Discordant, you can do so many things with that you have to go through all the options and what you're going to do, and it's just a bit tough, which I feel is how people... And then the other end is you can literally only do one thing with Kroot, so you just take it a lot and do that one thing a lot. I think is quite... Do you not think that's quite an interesting kind of dichotomy?
Well, yeah, I think you can do a lot with Chaos just because they've got so many books now. millions of different legions. And Kroot are just Operation Human Shield, aren't they?
and also Doggo Run, I think is a thing. What's the big Forge War Kroot thing? Does anyone know that?
I know there's a Krootox.
I think it might be the Krootox.
So there's Krootox Riders, Kroot Carnivores.
Oh, the Great Narlock.
Oh,
there
yes,
you go. I think that's Forge World though, so I don't traffic.
I don't think it's out anymore. I think they've stopped making it. I think it's OOP.
It might still be in a book though.
Yes, absolutely.
Maybe I could convert one out of Action Man figures and dinosaurs.
Yeah, that would work. Well, thank you both for being on the show. I appreciate it.
No, good chat.
Thank you for having me, Rob.
It was great.
Thank you for being on the show.
Next week we are going to be talking about we're going to, as we talked earlier, what some of the not problems with doing rundowns, but one of the that we'd like to improve the way that we do rundowns in the future, which has been an ongoing conversation that we've had as a group for maybe more than a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So next week we're going to be having one of our editorial sessions, which has been pretty.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, talking about roles and keywords. I've already started having some thoughts about it while we're doing this show, which is quite exciting. So please do join us next week for the 40k show. I'm very excited about it. I'm also looking forward to again talking to Nick and Tom. So thank you both for being here and just being awesome as per. And thank you for everyone who's joined us live, whether that be on Twitter,
guys.
Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch.
Periscope.
A big shout out to everyone who is watching us live on Mixer right now.
Shout out to the Mixer boys and girls.
Shout out to them. Also, we're live streaming to, most people don't know this, but there's a certain brand of fridges and freezers in America that offer a streaming service, and we're actually currently live streaming.
We're in someone's fridge.
Yeah, at least 3 fridges in North America. Anyway, but yeah, thank you for being here. Angle, Pokejohn. If you listen to the podcast, stay hydrated. And thank you to everyone else for going to Patreon. You guys rule. Have you guys got any final thoughts, things you want to tell people?
Remember to take your dick pills as well. To make yourself more like Dick Vanderhaast.
Tom?
Agreed. Fine.